The calm before the storm didn't last long. Early one morning, the Krylosian fleet moved closer to Earth, their ships casting long shadows over the planet below. Humanity held its breath, bracing for what seemed inevitable. Then, without warning, the attack began. Energy beams rained down from the sky, striking orbital defense platforms and military installations. Cities shook as explosions erupted, sending plumes of smoke into the air. The Krylosians had struck first, and they had struck hard. Their weapons were devastating, tearing through Earth's defenses with terrifying efficiency. Commander Rachel. Dawson stood in the command center, her face pale but resolute. Screens flashed with updates from the front lines, each report worse than the last. "We're losing ground," she muttered under her breath, gripping the edge of the console tightly. Her mind raced, trying to find a way to turn the tide. Couldn't afford to panic, not when so many lives depended on her leadership. Lieutenant Benjamin Hayes worked beside her, coordinating responses from various units. "Rachel, we need to fall back and regroup," he said urgently. "If we keep throwing everything at them now, we'll be wiped out." Rachel hesitated. Retreating felt like admitting defeat, but Benjamin was right. They needed time to rethink their strategy. "Order all units to pull back to secondary positions," she commanded. "Focus on protecting civilians and critical infrastructure. We can't win this war if we lose the people we're fighting for." As the order went out, Earth's forces scrambled to comply. Soldiers evacuated cities, guiding terrified citizens to underground shelters. Fighter jets retreated to safer zones, while naval fleets dispersed to avoid being targeted en masse. It was a chaotic retreat, but it bought humanity precious time. Meanwhile, Emily Dawson worked tirelessly in her lab, poring over the data collected by Captain Matthew Lewis during his reconnaissance mission. The weak points he had identified in the Krylosian shields offered a glimmer of hope, if only they could exploit them effectively. Emily knew that brute force alone wouldn't be enough. They needed something smarter, something unexpected. Her breakthrough came late one night after hours of relentless experimentation. Using principles from quantum mechanics, she developed a prototype device capable of disrupting the Krylosians' energy fields. The device generated pulses of interference that destabilized their shields, creating temporary openings for attacks. It wasn't perfect, and it required precise timing to work, but it was their best shot. Excited by her discovery, Emily rushed to share the news with Rachel. When she arrived at the command center, she found her sister hunched over a map of Earth, plotting defensive maneuvers. "Rachel, I've got something," Emily said breathlessly, holding up the small device. "It's not much, but it might give us an edge." Rachel looked up, her eyes widening with curiosity. "What is it?" "It's a shield disruptor," Emily explained. "If we can get close enough to their ships, we can disable their defenses for a few seconds, long enough to hit them where it hurts." Rachel studied the device carefully, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Can we mass-produce it?" Emily nodded. "I've already sent the blueprints to the engineers. They're working on scaling it up as we speak." "Good work, sis," Rachel said, clapping her on the shoulder. "This could change everything." While preparations continued on Earth, Captain Matthew Lewis prepared for another daring mission. This time, his objective was clear: test the shield disruptor in combat. Flying a modified fighter equipped with the prototype device, Matthew led a small squadron into enemy territory. Their target was a Krylosian cruiser guarding the outer edges of the fleet. The mission was risky, but Matthew didn't hesitate. He had seen too much destruction, too much loss, to back down now. As his ship approached the cruiser, he activated the disruptor. A low hum filled the cockpit as the device emitted its pulse. For a brief moment, the cruiser's shields flickered and then vanished. "Now!" Matthew shouted into his comms, signaling his team to strike. Missiles launched from their fighters, slamming into the exposed hull of the cruiser. Explosions lit up the darkness of space, sending shockwaves rippling through the alien vessel. Before the Krylosians could recover, Matthew's squadron broke formation and fled, narrowly avoiding retaliatory fire. Back on Earth, the success of the mission boosted morale. News of the damaged cruiser spread quickly, inspiring hope among the troops. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity dared to believe they might stand a chance. But the Krylosians weren't about to let such defiance go unpunished. In retaliation, they intensified their attacks, targeting civilian areas with renewed ferocity. Entire neighborhoods were reduced to rubble, and thousands perished in the ensuing chaos. The loss was staggering, but it only strengthened humanity's resolve. President Daniel Carter addressed the nation once again, his voice steady despite the devastation. To my fellow humans, I say this. We are battered, but we are not broken. The cost of freedom is high, but we will pay it gladly. Together, we will rise above this darkness and reclaim our skies. His words resonated deeply, fueling the spirit of resistance. Civilians joined the war effort in droves, volunteering as medics, engineers, and supply runners. Factories operated around the clock, producing weapons, shields, and other essential materials. Even children contributed, collecting scrap metal and rationing food for soldiers. Amidst the struggle, stories of heroism emerged. In New York City, a group of firefighters risked their lives to save trapped civilians from a burning skyscraper. In Tokyo, a young woman used her knowledge of coding to hack into a Krylosian drone, disabling it before it could cause further harm. These acts of bravery reminded everyone that even in the darkest times, humanity's light burned brightly. On the battlefield, Rachel coordinated a massive counteroffensive designed to push the Krylosians back. Armed with the shield disruptors, Earth's forces launched a surprise attack on several key vessels in the alien fleet. The disruptors proved effective, allowing pilots like Matthew to inflict significant damage. One by one, the Krylosian ships fell, their once impenetrable defenses rendered useless. Yet victory came at a steep price. Many pilots never returned from their missions, their names added to the growing list of heroes who had given everything for the cause. Matthew himself barely escaped death multiple times, his fighter sustaining heavy damage in nearly every engagement. But he refused to quit, driven by the memory of those who had fallen. As the days turned into weeks, the tide of the war slowly began to shift. Though the Krylosians still outnumbered humanity, their arrogance had blinded them to the resilience of their opponents. They underestimated the ingenuity, courage, and unity of the human race, a mistake that would prove costly. In the command center, Rachel monitored the progress of the counteroffensive. Each victory, no matter how small, brought a sense of relief, but also a reminder of the sacrifices made. She thought often of her sister Emily, whose invention had changed the course of the war. Without her, they might have been crushed entirely. One evening, as Rachel reviewed reports from the front lines, Emily entered the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Rachel and sat down beside her. "How's it going?" she asked softly. Rachel sighed, taking a sip of the warm drink. "Better than it was yesterday, but we're not out of the woods yet." Emily nodded, gazing at the screens displaying live footage of the battle. "Do you think we'll win?" Rachel set her cup down and looked at her sister. "I don't know, but I do know this. We're not giving up. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. If we keep fighting, even when it feels impossible, we'll find a way." Emily smiled faintly. "That's why I admire you, Rach. You always believe we can make it through." Rachel chuckled. "Someone has to." The 2 sisters sat in silence for a while, watching the screens and listening to the distant sounds of war. Outside, the sky was dark, lit only by the glow of distant explosions. But inside the command center, there was a quiet determination, a shared belief that no matter how bleak things seemed, humanity would endure. And so the battle raged on, day after day, night after night. The Krylosians fought fiercely, unwilling to concede defeat. But humanity fought harder, driven by love, for their home and a refusal to surrender their freedom. Every life lost, every city destroyed, only fueled their resolve to see the war through to the end. For Earth, the stakes had never been higher. But as long as there were people willing to stand and fight, the Galactic Empire would never rule Terran skies. The days following President Carter's speech were filled with tension and uncertainty. The alien fleet, now identified as the Krylosian Empire, remained stationed near Earth's moon. Their ships loomed in the darkness of space like silent predators, unmoving but undeniably threatening. Humanity waited anxiously, unsure of what the invaders would do next. Would they attack? Or were they waiting for something? Commander Rachel Dawson spent every waking moment preparing for the worst. She coordinated with military leaders across the globe, ensuring that Earth's defenses were as strong as possible. Troops were deployed to key locations and orbital. Defense platforms armed with advanced weaponry stood ready. But despite her best efforts, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that they were still outmatched. The Krylosians' technology was far beyond anything humanity had ever encountered. Lieutenant Benjamin Hayes worked tirelessly by Rachel's side, analyzing data and running simulations. He knew they needed more than just brute force to stand a chance against the invaders. "We need to understand them," he said one evening as they reviewed footage of the alien fleet. "If we know how they think, we might be able to predict their moves." Rachel nodded. "I agree. But how do we get inside their heads? We don't even know if they can communicate with us." Benjamin hesitated before replying. "What if we try reaching out first? Maybe they're waiting for us to make contact." Rachel frowned. "It's risky. If we show our hand too soon, we could give them an advantage." "True," Benjamin admitted. "But doing nothing isn't helping either. At least if we try talking, we'll learn something, good or bad." After much deliberation, Rachel decided to take the risk. A message was transmitted into space, broadcast on every frequency Earth scientists thought the Krylosians might use. It was simple and direct. "We are humans. We seek peaceful coexistence. What do you want?" For hours, there was no response. Just when Rachel began to think the effort had been wasted, a reply came. It wasn't in words, at least not words anyone could understand, but in a series of pulsating signals accompanied by strange, melodic tones. Scientists scrambled to decode the message, but it quickly became clear that this was no ordinary language. It was complex, layered, and unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Meanwhile, Emily Dawson continued her work in the lab, determined to uncover more about the Krylosians' connection to stolen human technology. Her discovery had sent shockwaves through Earth Defense Command, but she knew there was still more to learn. Late one night, as she sifted through reams of data, she noticed something peculiar. Hidden within the energy signatures of the alien fleet were faint traces of communication, not between the ships, but from somewhere farther away. Emily's heart raced as she traced the source. It led her to a distant star system on the edge of explored space. Could this be where the Krylosians had acquired their knowledge of Earth? She forwarded her findings to Rachel, who immediately ordered reconnaissance missions to investigate. While humanity worked behind the scenes, the Krylosians finally made their move. One of their largest ships detached from the fleet and descended toward Earth. It hovered above Geneva, Switzerland, where the United Nations headquarters was located. The ship emitted a low hum that resonated across the city, sending chills down the spines of everyone nearby. Inside the UN building, diplomats gathered nervously, unsure of what to expect. Moments later, a smaller craft emerged from the mothership and landed in a nearby field. From it stepped Zixar, the Krylosian ambassador. Towering over the humans, Zixar's insectoid form was both fascinating and terrifying. Its exoskeleton shimmered with iridescent colors, and its multiple limbs moved with precision. Most unsettling of all were its eyes, large, multifaceted orbs that seemed to see everything at once. Zixar addressed the assembly through a translator device, its voice cold and mechanical. "You have declared yourselves unwilling to surrender. This is unfortunate. The Krylosian Empire does not tolerate defiance. Your species is primitive, yet you possess resources we require. Submit, and your survival will be guaranteed. Resist, and you will perish." The room erupted in murmurs of outrage. President Carter stepped forward, his expression calm but firm. "Ambassador Zixar, let me make one thing clear. Humanity values freedom above all else. We will not bow to threats, nor will we allow ourselves to be exploited. If the Krylosian Empire wishes to negotiate, we are willing to listen. But domination is not an option." Zixar tilted its head, studying Carter with those unsettling eyes. "Freedom is a luxury you cannot afford. Your resistance is futile." Before Carter could respond, Emily Dawson entered the chamber, clutching a tablet. Ignoring protocol, she approached the podium. "Ambassador Zixar," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves, "we know about your theft of human technology. You've been spying on us for decades, stealing our innovations and using them against us. How can we trust anything you say?" A ripple of surprise spread through the room. Zixar paused, then emitted a series of clicks and whistles that sounded almost amused. "Your accusations are irrelevant. Progress belongs to those who wield it. Your species is weak. Survival belongs to the strong." The insult stung, but it also galvanized the assembly. Diplomats from around the world voiced their support for President Carter's stance, refusing to back down. Zixar, unimpressed, turned and departed without another word, leaving humanity with a chilling sense of inevitability. As news of the failed negotiations spread, fear gripped the planet. People braced themselves for war, stocking up on supplies, and saying tearful goodbyes to loved ones. But amid the panic, there were also acts of courage and unity. Volunteers signed up to join the military in droves, and communities came together to support one another. In orbit, Captain Matthew Lewis prepared for what might be his most dangerous mission yet. A decorated pilot with years of experience, Matthew had been chosen to lead a reconnaissance team tasked with gathering intelligence on the Krylosian fleet. Flying a sleek fighter craft equipped with stealth technology, he and his squadron slipped past enemy lines under the cover of darkness. The mission was fraught with peril. The Krylosians' sensors were incredibly sensitive, and even the slightest miscalculation could mean disaster. Matthew's hands gripped the controls tightly as he guided his ship closer to the alien vessels. Through the cockpit window, he marveled at their sheer size and complexity. These weren't just machines, they were works of art, each detail meticulously designed for efficiency and power. But Matthew didn't have time to admire them. His focus was on scanning the ships for weaknesses. Using specialized equipment, he mapped their exteriors, searching for vulnerabilities that could be exploited. He also recorded footage of their movements, hoping it would provide valuable insights for Earth's strategists. Just as Matthew was about to retreat, alarms blared in his cockpit. The Krylosians had detected him. Reacting instinctively, he veered, sharply to avoid incoming fire. His squadron followed suit, weaving through a barrage of energy blasts. The chase was intense, pushing both man and machine to their limits, but Matthew refused to give up. He knew the information he carried was critical and worth risking his life for. Back on Earth, Rachel monitored the mission closely, her heart pounding as she watched the live feed. When Matthew's ship finally returned to base, battered but intact, she breathed a sigh of relief. The data he brought back revealed crucial details about the Krylosians' defenses, including weak points in their shielding systems. It wasn't much, but it gave humanity a fighting chance. Despite these small victories, the looming threat of invasion cast a shadow over everything. The Krylosians showed no signs of backing down, and their arrogance only fueled humanity's resolve. Around the world, people repeated President Carter's words like a mantra. The Galactic Empire will never rule Terran skies. It was more than a declaration. It was a promise. As the days passed, Earth grew quieter. Streets once bustling with activity were now eerily deserted, save for patrols and emergency vehicles. The skies above major cities buzzed with drones and fighter jets, standing guard against potential attacks. Yet amidst the silence, there was a palpable sense of determination. Humanity had faced countless challenges throughout history, and though this one seemed insurmountable, they refused to surrender. Rachel and Emily met late one night in the command center, reviewing plans and strategies. Both sisters looked exhausted, their faces pale from lack of sleep, but their spirits remained unbroken. They knew the road ahead would be long and difficult, but they also knew they weren't alone. Billions of people stood with them, united, in purpose and hope. "We'll get through this," Rachel said softly, breaking the silence. "Somehow we always do." Emily smiled weakly. "Yeah, let's just hope somehow happens before they decide to attack." Neither sister voiced their fears aloud, but they didn't need to. The weight of responsibility hung heavy in the air, a constant reminder of what was at stake. For now, all they could do was prepare and pray that their preparations would be enough. The year was 2347, and Earth had become a beacon of progress. Humanity had achieved what many once thought impossible. Skyscrapers pierced the clouds in every major city, powered by clean energy sources that no longer harmed the planet. The oceans were healing, and forests were thriving thanks to breakthroughs in technology. People lived longer, healthier lives, and for the first time in history, Earth was united under one government. President Daniel Carter stood at the helm of this new era, guiding humanity with wisdom and care. But peace rarely lasts forever. On the Ide, a quiet morning in early March, something extraordinary happened. Observatories around the globe detected an unusual phenomenon near Jupiter's orbit. At first, scientists believed it was a comet, or perhaps a rogue asteroid. But within hours, it became clear that this was no natural occurrence. A massive fleet of alien ships had appeared out of nowhere, their sleek designs glinting ominously in the sunlight. These were not explorers seeking friendship. They were warriors preparing for conquest. Commander Rachel Dawson sat in her office at Earth Defense Command, staring at the live feed from space. Her heart raced as she watched the growing number of unidentified vessels. She had spent years training for moments like this, but nothing could have prepared her for the sheer scale of what she was seeing. The invaders' ships were enormous, dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. Their presence alone sent shivers down her spine. "Rachel!" a voice called from behind her. It was Lieutenant Benjamin Hayes, her closest advisor and friend. He held a tablet displaying schematics of the alien fleet. "We've analyzed their movements. They're holding position just outside lunar orbit. No signs of hostility yet, but..." His voice trailed off. "But we both know that won't last," Rachel finished for him. She stood up and walked over to the large window overlooking the command center below. Dozens of officers hurried about, checking monitors and exchanging urgent whispers. Everyone knew what was coming, even if they didn't want to admit it. Rachel turned back to Benjamin. "Get me everything we have on them. I don't care how old the data is. If there's even a scrap of information, I need it now." Benjamin nodded and rushed off to comply. Rachel took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She couldn't afford to panic, not when so much depended on her leadership. As head of Earth's defense fleet, she bore the responsibility of protecting billions of lives. It was a weight she carried every day, but today felt heavier than ever. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Emily Dawson sat hunched over her desk in a dimly lit laboratory. Unlike her older sister Rachel, Emily wasn't involved in military matters. She was an astrophysicist, known for her groundbreaking work in quantum mechanics. But even she couldn't ignore the news spreading like wildfire across the globe. Reports of the alien fleet dominated every channel, sparking fear and speculation among the public. Emily sighed and rubbed her temples. She had been working late, again poring over data from recent experiments. Her mind was already overwhelmed, and now this. She glanced at the clock. It was nearly midnight. Most people would have gone home by now, but Emily found solace in her work. It gave her purpose, especially during times of uncertainty. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden alert on her computer screen. Frowning, she leaned closer to examine the incoming data. It came from one of Earth's deep space probes stationed near Saturn. At first glance, it looked like random noise, static interference picked up by the probe's sensors. But as Emily zoomed in, patterns began to emerge, patterns that matched the energy signatures of the alien fleet. "This can't be right," she muttered to herself. She double-checked her calculations, running simulations to rule out errors. To her astonishment, the results remained consistent. The aliens weren't just using advanced technology, they were using stolen human technology. Somewhere along the line, someone had taken Earth's innovations and twisted them into weapons. Emily's hands trembled as she reached for her phone. She needed to tell Rachel immediately. This discovery changed everything. If the aliens had access to Earth's research, then humanity was far more vulnerable than anyone realized. But before she could dial the number, her screen flickered and another message appeared. This one wasn't from the probe. It was from Earth Defense Command. "Dr. Dawson," the text read, "your presence is required at headquarters ASAP. Classified briefing." Emily stared at the message, her stomach churning. Whatever was happening, it was bigger than she imagined. Grabbing her coat, she hurried out of the lab, leaving behind the quiet sanctuary of equations and theories. Outside, the streets were eerily silent, as though the entire world was holding its breath. Back at Earth Defense Command, Rachel paced anxiously in the main conference room. Around the table sat some of the brightest minds in the world, scientists, strategists, and diplomats, all waiting for Emily to arrive. When the door finally opened, Emily stepped inside, looking pale but determined. "Sorry I'm late," she said, taking a seat beside Rachel. "I think I know why you called me here." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Do you?" Emily nodded. "I've been analyzing data from our deep space probes. The aliens' energy signatures, they match ours. Someone gave them our tech, or rather, they took it." A murmur rippled through the room. Rachel clenched her fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. "How is that possible? Our systems are secure. There's no way they could have accessed classified information without us knowing." "That's what I thought too," Emily replied. "But look at this." She pulled up her findings on the holographic display in the center of the table. Lines of code and spectral graphs filled the air, painting a picture of betrayal and theft. Whoever did this covered their tracks well, but the evidence is undeniable. President Daniel Carter entered the room just as Emily finished explaining. He listened intently, his expression growing darker with each passing moment. When she was done, he cleared his throat and addressed the group. "This changes things," he said gravely. "If these beings have been studying us, then we're dealing with more than just an invasion. We're facing an enemy who knows our strengths and our weaknesses." Rachel stood up, her voice firm despite the tension in the air. "Mr. President, we need to act fast. If they've been watching us, they'll strike soon. We can't let them gain the upper hand." Carter nodded. "Agreed. Commander Dawson, you have full authority to mobilize our forces. Prepare for the worst, but do everything in your power to avoid unnecessary bloodshed." As the meeting adjourned, Rachel and Emily stayed behind to discuss strategy. The weight of the situation pressed heavily on both sisters, but they refused to give in to despair. They had faced challenges before, and they would face this one together. That evening, President Carter appeared on television screens worldwide, delivering a message that would resonate for generations to come. Standing tall against a backdrop of Earth's blue skies, he spoke with unwavering conviction. To the citizens of Earth, and to those who watch us from afar, hear me now. We are a proud species, born of struggle and triumph. We have overcome countless obstacles to reach this point, and we will not falter in the face of adversity. The Galactic Empire will never rule Terran's skies. We will defend our home, our freedom, and our future, with every ounce of strength we possess. His words ignited a fire in the hearts of billions. Across continents, people rallied together, united by a shared determination to protect their planet. Factories shifted production to support the war effort, volunteers signed up for military service, and scientists worked tirelessly to develop new technologies. In orbit, the alien fleet remained ominously still, watching and waiting. For now, the battle had not begun, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. And when the moment came, humanity would be ready. Months had passed since the Krylosian fleet retreated into the depths of space, leaving Earth to pick up the pieces. The planet was healing, but the process was slow and uneven. Some cities had begun to thrive again, their streets bustling with activity and their skylines gleaming with new construction. Others remained in ruins, ghost towns haunted by memories of destruction. The scars of war were everywhere, in the shattered buildings, the empty homes, and the faces of those who had lost loved ones. President Daniel Carter stood on a makeshift stage in one such devastated city, addressing a crowd gathered for the unveiling of a memorial. Behind him stood a towering statue of a soldier holding a child, symbolizing the courage and compassion that had defined humanity's fight against the invaders. Today, we honor those who gave everything, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Their sacrifice reminds us of what we are capable of when we stand united. The crowd listened silently, many wiping away tears as they reflected on the lives lost. Among them was Commander Rachel Dawson, her uniform crisp despite the weariness in her eyes. She had attended countless memorials like this one, each time feeling the weight of responsibility even heavier. Though the war was over, she couldn't shake the feeling that her job wasn't done. Somewhere out there, the Krylosians were regrouping, and they would return. Lieutenant Benjamin Hayes stood beside her, his expression somber. He had seen too much death, too much suffering to ever feel truly at peace. Yet he also saw glimmers of hope. Children playing in the streets, couples rebuilding their homes, and communities coming together to support one another. It's strange, isn't it? He said softly. How life goes on, even after something like this. Rachel nodded. That's what makes us strong. We keep moving forward no matter how hard it gets. Nearby, Emily Dawson observed the ceremony from a distance. Unlike her sister, she rarely attended public events, preferring to focus on her work in the lab. But today felt different. Today was about remembering, not just the fallen, but the resilience of those who remained. As she watched the crowd, she thought about the lessons learned during the war and how they could shape humanity's future. After the ceremony, Rachel and Emily met at a small cafe near the command center. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of blooming flowers, a reminder that spring had arrived. They sat at a corner table sipping coffee as they discussed the progress being made. How's the SHIELD network coming along? Emily asked, stirring sugar into her cup. It's nearly complete, Rachel replied. We've installed disruptors on all orbital platforms, and the testing phase went smoothly. If the Krylosians come back, they'll find Earth a much tougher target than before. Emily smiled faintly. Good. That gives me some peace of mind. What about you? Rachel asked. Any breakthroughs lately? Emily hesitated, then leaned closer. Actually, I've been working on something experimental. Remember the energy signatures we detected from the Krylosians' weapons? I think I've found a way to harness them for clean energy production. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Clean energy? From alien tech? Exactly, Emily said, excitement creeping into her voice. If I can replicate their power sources safely, we could solve Earth's energy crisis forever. No more reliance on fossil fuels or nuclear reactors, just sustainable, efficient energy. That's incredible, Rachel said, genuinely impressed. But are you sure it's safe? I won't rush it, Emily assured her. Safety is my top priority. Still, the potential is enormous. Imagine a world where no one has to worry about running out of power. Rachel nodded thoughtfully. It's ambitious, but if anyone can pull it off, it's you. As the sisters talked, Captain Matthew Lewis prepared for another mission. This time, however, it wasn't a combat operation. Alongside General Varnock and a team of human scientists, he was heading to the edge of the solar system to investigate a derelict Krylosian vessel discovered drifting near Neptune. The ship appeared abandoned, its systems offline, but its presence raised questions. Why had it been left behind? What secrets did it hold? Matthew suited up in his flight gear, double-checking his equipment before boarding the transport craft. His squadron accompanied him, their fighters ready to provide cover if needed. As they approached the derelict vessel, Matthew couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The ship loomed large and ominous, its sleek design eerily silent against the backdrop of stars. Inside, the air was cold and stale. The corridors were dark, illuminated only by the beams of their flashlights. Strange symbols etched into the walls glowed faintly, pulsing with an otherworldly light. Matthew and his team moved cautiously, scanning for traps or hidden dangers. Every step felt like walking through a graveyard, the silence oppressive and suffocating. They eventually reached the ship's control room, where rows of dormant consoles lined the walls. General Varnock stepped forward, his multifaceted eyes scanning the panels. "This is unusual," he said, his translator device crackling with static. "These systems are ancient, older than anything I've seen before." Emily's team worked quickly to analyze the data stored within the ship's memory banks. What they discovered shocked them. The vessel belonged to a faction of Krylosians who had opposed the Empire centuries ago. Their rebellion had failed, and their technology had been erased from history, until now. Among the files were blueprints for advanced propulsion systems, medical devices, and even terraforming tools. "This changes everything," Emily whispered, her hands trembling as she downloaded the information onto a secure drive. "If we can understand this tech, we could leapfrog centuries of development. But not everything aboard the ship was beneficial. Buried deep within its archives was evidence of experiments conducted on sentient beings, tests designed to enhance physical and mental capabilities at horrific costs. Emily felt a chill run down her spine as she read the reports. "We need to be careful," she warned the others. "Some of this knowledge is dangerous. Using it without fully understanding the consequences could lead to disaster." Matthew agreed. "Let's take what we can use and destroy the rest. Humanity doesn't need to repeat their mistakes." Back on Earth, the discoveries sparked both excitement and debate. Scientists argued over the ethics of using alien technology, while politicians weighed the risks and rewards. President Carter called an emergency meeting of global leaders to discuss the findings, emphasizing the importance of caution. "We've been given a gift," he said, addressing the assembly. "But gifts can become curses if misused. Let us proceed with wisdom and humility." Rachel supported the president's stance, urging patience as researchers studied the recovered data. "We've already paid a heavy price for rushing into conflict," she reminded everyone. "Let's not make the same mistake twice." Despite the challenges, optimism began to spread. Projects inspired by the recovered technology sprang up around the globe, from renewable energy initiatives to advancements in medicine and space exploration. Humanity was taking its first steps toward a brighter future, guided by the lessons of the past. In quieter moments, Rachel often found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. She thought about the sacrifices made, the friendships forged, and the strength displayed by ordinary people facing extraordinary odds. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, she believed in humanity's ability to adapt and overcome. One evening, as she walked through the command center, she paused to watch a group of young cadets training. Their laughter echoed through the halls, a stark contrast to the tension that had once filled the space. For the first time in a long while, Rachel allowed herself to smile. "They remind me of us," Benjamin said, joining her. "Back when we were just starting out." Rachel chuckled. "I hope they never have to face what we did." Benjamin nodded. "Me too. But if they do, I know they'll rise to the challenge." As the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Rachel felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The war had tested humanity in ways no one could have predicted, but it had also revealed its true strength. Together, they had proven that freedom was worth fighting for, and that unity could overcome even the greatest threats. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, the remnants of the Krylosian Empire plotted their next move. But Earth was ready, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. Humanity vowed to defend its skies no matter the cost. For now, though, the skies above Earth were clear, filled with the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The war was over, but the scars it left behind would take years to heal. Earth stood battered and bruised, its cities in ruins, its people grieving for the lives lost. Yet despite the devastation, there was a sense of triumph, a shared belief that humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger. The Krylosian fleet had been driven back into the depths of space, their mothership destroyed and their forces scattered. For now, Earth was safe. Commander Rachel Dawson walked through the command center, her boots echoing softly on the metal floor. The room was quieter than it had been during the height of the war, the frantic energy replaced by a somber calm. Screens displayed images of rebuilding efforts across the globe, construction crews working tirelessly to repair damaged infrastructure, volunteers distributing food and supplies to displaced families, and scientists collaborating with the Krylosian rebels to study their technology. Rachel stopped at one screen showing footage of Captain Matthew Lewis receiving a medal for his bravery during the final assault. His face was solemn as he accepted the honor, his eyes reflecting both pride and sorrow. Many of his comrades hadn't returned from that mission, and though he had played a crucial role in the victory, the cost weighed heavily on him. Lieutenant Benjamin Hayes approached Rachel holding a tablet with updates from the front lines. "The last of the Krylosian ships have retreated beyond lunar orbit," he reported. "They're regrouping, but it'll be months, if not years, before they can launch another attack." "That's good news," Rachel said, though her tone lacked enthusiasm. She glanced at the screens again, her thoughts drifting to the sacrifices made along the way. "We should use this time wisely. We need to strengthen our defenses and prepare for whatever comes next." Benjamin nodded. "Agreed. But we also need to focus on healing. People are exhausted, Rachel. They've given everything they have. If we don't give them a chance to recover, we risk losing their trust and their spirit." Rachel sighed, knowing he was right. Humanity had endured unimaginable hardship, and while vigilance was essential, so too was compassion. "You're right," she admitted. "Let's start drafting plans for recovery. I want everyone involved, scientists, engineers, civilians. This isn't just about rebuilding, it's about creating something better." Meanwhile, Emily Dawson continued her work in the lab, studying the advanced technology recovered from the Krylosians. With help from General Varnock and his rebels, she gained insights into their weapons systems and energy sources. What she learned astonished her. Not only were the Krylosians far more advanced than humanity, but their technology, carried risks that could destabilize entire planets if misused. Emily knew this knowledge came with great responsibility. She spent long hours developing safeguards to prevent such power from falling into the wrong hands. Her goal wasn't just to protect Earth, but to ensure that humanity's future advancements wouldn't repeat the mistakes of the past. One evening, as Emily pored over schematics, Rachel entered the lab carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to her sister and sat down beside her. "How's it going?" she asked softly. Emily took a sip of the warm drink and leaned back in her chair. "It's complicated. Their tech is incredible, but it's dangerous too. One wrong move and we could cause irreparable damage." Rachel frowned. "Do you think we can handle it?" "I think we have to," Emily replied. "If we shy away from progress, we leave ourselves vulnerable. But if we rush blindly ahead, we risk becoming like them." She gestured toward the Krylosian artifacts scattered across the table. "Their arrogance almost destroyed us. We can't let that happen to us." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "You're right. Progress has to come with responsibility." For weeks, Earth focused on rebuilding. Factories that once produced weapons shifted to manufacturing housing materials and medical supplies. Farmers planted crops to feed starving populations, and teachers reopened schools to give children a sense of normalcy. Communities came together, sharing resources and supporting one another. Slowly but surely, life began to return to a semblance of order. President Daniel Carter traveled the world, visiting affected regions and speaking with survivors. He listened to their stories, offering words of encouragement and gratitude. "This is your victory," he told them during one speech in a war-torn city. "Not mine, not any single leader's, but yours. You stood firm when the odds were against you. You proved that humanity's greatest strength lies in unity." His words resonated deeply, inspiring hope even in the darkest corners of the planet. People began to see themselves not as victims of the war, but as heroes who had fought for their freedom. Murals depicting scenes of resistance sprang up in cities around the globe, celebrating the courage of ordinary citizens who had risen to extraordinary challenges. As Earth healed, relations with the Krylosian rebels grew stronger. General Varnock and his followers settled into temporary camps established by the United Nations, where they worked alongside human scientists and engineers. Though mistrust lingered on both sides, cooperation gradually replaced suspicion. Varnock himself became an advocate for peace, using his influence to urge other factions within the Empire to reconsider their aggressive ways. Captain Matthew Lewis found solace in these newfound friendships. After months of fighting, he welcomed the opportunity to learn from the rebels and share his own experiences. Together, they trained new pilots and strategists, preparing for the possibility of future conflicts. Matthew also took time to mentor younger recruits, passing on lessons he had learned the hard way. Despite the progress, reminders of the war remained everywhere. Memorials were erected in honor of those who had fallen, their names etched into stone as a testament to their sacrifice. Every day, people visited these sites to pay their respects, leaving flowers and notes of gratitude. It was a painful reminder of what had been lost, but also a celebration of what had been saved. In the command center, Rachel and Benjamin reviewed plans for Earth's new defense network. Using the shield disruptor technology developed by Emily, they designed a system capable of protecting the entire planet from future attacks. Orbital platforms equipped with the disruptors formed a protective barrier around Earth, ensuring that no enemy could penetrate its skies without facing resistance. "This changes everything," Benjamin said as he studied the schematics. "With this system in place, we'll be ready for anything." Rachel smiled faintly. "Almost anything. Technology alone won't save us. It's the people who make the difference." Benjamin nodded. "True, but having the tools helps." As the months passed, Earth began to look toward the future. Advances in science and technology opened doors to possibilities once thought impossible. Space exploration flourished, with missions launched to explore nearby star systems and establish colonies beyond Earth. These endeavors weren't just about expansion, they were about survival, ensuring that humanity would never again be caught unprepared. Emily played a key role in these efforts, her innovations paving the way for sustainable living in hostile environments. She worked closely with teams designing habitats for Mars and the moons of Jupiter, incorporating lessons learned from the Krylosians' mistakes. Her vision was clear. Humanity's destiny lay among the stars, but it must be pursued responsibly. One evening, Rachel joined Emily on the roof of the command center, gazing up at the night sky. Stars twinkled brightly, their light undimmed by the chaos below. "Do you ever wonder what's out there?" Rachel asked after a long silence. "All the time," Emily replied. "There's so much we don't know, so much we haven't seen." Rachel nodded. "And yet, here we are, still standing, still dreaming." Emily smiled. "That's what makes us human, isn't it? No matter how hard things get, we keep looking forward." Below them, the city buzzed with activity. Lights flickered in windows. Laughter echoed in the streets, and music drifted through the air. Life had returned to Earth, vibrant and full of promise. Though the wounds of war would never fully heal, humanity had proven its resilience and its capacity for hope. As the sisters stood side by side watching the stars, they felt a quiet confidence settle over them. The road ahead would be challenging, filled with unknowns and uncertainties. But as long as people refused to give up, as long as they chose to stand together, Earth would always endure. And somewhere, deep in the vastness of space, the remnants of the Krylosian Empire plotted their revenge. But humanity was ready. Stronger, wiser, and united, they vowed never to surrender their skies again. For Earth, the war had ended. But the story of its people, their struggles, their triumphs, and their dreams, was far from over. The war against the Krylosian Empire had reached a critical point. Humanity's counteroffensive was gaining momentum, but the cost of resistance was mounting. Cities lay in ruins, and millions mourned the loss of loved ones. Despite the devastation, there was a growing sense that the tide was turning. Earth's forces were learning to adapt, using every advantage they could find to outmaneuver their powerful foe. Commander Rachel Dawson stood in the command center, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the latest movements of the Krylosian fleet. The shield disruptors developed by her sister Emily had proven invaluable, allowing Earth's fighters to penetrate the invaders' defenses. But Rachel knew they couldn't rely solely on technology. They needed something more, something unexpected, to secure victory. Lieutenant Benjamin Hayes approached her, holding a tablet with an urgent message. "Rachel," he said quietly, "we've received a transmission from an unknown source. It claims to be from within the Krylosian Empire." Rachel frowned. "What do they want?" "They're offering help," Benjamin replied. "They say they're rebels who oppose the Empire's rule and want to assist us in defeating it." Rachel hesitated. Could this be a trap, or was it a genuine opportunity? She glanced at the screen again, weighing the risks. If the message was legitimate, it could change everything. But trusting the enemy, even dissidents within their ranks, was dangerous. "Bring me more details," she said finally. "I need proof before we act." While Rachel deliberated, Emily Dawson worked feverishly in her lab, refining the shield disruptor technology. Her initial prototype had been effective, but she knew it wasn't perfect. The device required precise timing and positioning to work, leaving little room for error. Emily was determined to improve its reliability so that soldiers wouldn't have to gamble with their lives every time they used it. Her breakthrough came late one night when she stumbled upon a way to amplify the disruptor's pulse. By integrating it with Earth's existing energy weapons, she created a hybrid system capable of delivering a stronger, more sustained disruption. Excited by the discovery, she rushed to test it in simulations. The results were promising, enough to warrant immediate deployment. As preparations continued on Earth, Captain Matthew Lewis prepared for another mission. This time, his objective was clear: escort a diplomatic envoy to meet the mysterious Krylosian rebels. The idea made him uneasy. Trusting outsiders, especially those claiming to oppose the Empire, felt like walking into a lion's den. But orders were orders, and humanity needed every ally it could get. Matthew's squadron rendezvoused with the rebel faction near the edge of the solar system. Their ships were smaller and less advanced than the main Krylosian fleet, but they bore similar markings. As Matthew's fighter approached, a single vessel detached from the group and moved closer. Its pilot identified himself as General Varnock, a disgraced Krylosian commander seeking redemption. Through a translator device, Varnock explained his situation. He and his followers had grown disillusioned with the Empire's brutal methods and sought asylum on Earth in exchange for their assistance. "We know their weaknesses," he said. "Let us help you end this war." Matthew relayed the information back to Rachel, who consulted with President Carter before making a decision. After much deliberation, they agreed to form a temporary alliance. Varnock and his rebels provided invaluable intelligence about the Krylosian fleet's structure and strategy, helping Earth's forces plan a final decisive strike. With the rebels' help, Rachel devised a bold plan. Earth's military would launch a coordinated assault on the Krylosian mothership, the heart of their operations. The shield disruptors would disable its defenses, allowing ground teams to infiltrate and sabotage the vessel from within. It was a risky maneuver, requiring split-second timing and flawless execution. But if successful, it could cripple the entire fleet. Captain Matthew Lewis volunteered to lead the infiltration team, knowing full well the dangers involved. His squadron would escort the ground forces to the mothership, providing cover fire while they breached its hull. Once inside, they would plant explosives in key areas, ensuring maximum damage. The night before the mission, Matthew met with Rachel and Emily to discuss logistics. Both sisters looked exhausted but resolute, their determination unwavering despite the odds. "You don't have to do this," Rachel said, her voice tinged with concern. "We can send someone else." Matthew shook his head. "No, I'm doing this. You've trusted me this far, and I won't let you down." Emily handed him a small device, the improved version of her shield disruptor. "This will give you the edge you need," she said. "Just promise me you'll come back alive." Matthew smiled faintly. "I'll do my best." The following morning, the mission began. Earth's fleet launched a massive diversionary attack, drawing the Krylosians' attention away from the mothership. Meanwhile, Matthew's squadron slipped through the chaos, heading straight for their target. Using the shield disruptors, they disabled the vessel's defenses just long enough for the ground team to board. Inside the mothership, the air was thick with tension. The corridors were dimly lit, filled with the hum of alien machinery. Matthew and his team moved cautiously, avoiding patrols and setting charges in designated locations. Every step felt like walking on thin ice, knowing that one wrong move could mean disaster. As they planted the last explosive, alarms blared throughout the ship. The Krylosians had discovered them. Matthew signaled for his team to retreat, but they were quickly surrounded. Outnumbered and outgunned, they fought desperately, relying on speed and surprise to stay alive. Back outside, Rachel monitored the situation anxiously. When communication with Matthew's team went silent, her heart sank. Had they failed? Or worse, had they been captured? Just as despair began to creep in, a transmission crackled through the comms. "We're clear," Matthew's voice said, strained but triumphant. "Detonation in 10 seconds. Relief washed over Rachel as she watched the countdown. At 0, the mothership erupted in a brilliant explosion, lighting up the darkness of space. The shockwave rippled through the Krylosian fleet, disabling dozens of ships and scattering the rest. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had gained the upper hand. The victory was bittersweet. Many lives had been lost, and the scars of war ran deep. But amidst the destruction, there was hope. Earth's forces regrouped, ready to press their advantage. With the rebels' continued support, they launched a series of follow-up attacks, targeting what remained of the Krylosian fleet. President Carter addressed the world once again, his voice filled with gratitude and resolve. Today, we stand united, not just as nations, but as a species. We have faced unimaginable challenges, and though the road ahead is long, we will rebuild. Together, we will heal. And together, we will ensure that no one ever threatens our skies again. His words resonated deeply, inspiring millions to keep pushing forward. Across the globe, people worked tirelessly to repair the damage caused by the war. Cities rose from the ashes, rebuilt stronger and more resilient than before. Scientists collaborated with the rebel Krylosians, sharing knowledge and forging bonds that transcended species. For Rachel and Emily, the war had changed them in ways they couldn't fully articulate. They had faced unimaginable pressure, made impossible decisions, and witnessed unspeakable loss. But they had also seen the best of humanity, its courage, ingenuity, and compassion. And though the future remained uncertain, they knew one thing for sure. As long as people refused to give up, Earth would always endure. In the weeks that followed, the remnants of the Krylosian fleet retreated into deep space, vowing revenge but unable to mount another invasion anytime soon. Humanity celebrated cautiously, aware that peace was fragile and vigilance essential. But for now, they allowed themselves to breathe easier, knowing they had protected their home. And as the sun rose over a battered yet defiant planet, the words of President Carter echoed in everyone's hearts. The Galactic Empire will never rule Terran skies.